Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my running back start or sit decisions for week number 1 of the 2021 fantasy football season. Inside today's video, I'm going to be going over every single game from Thursday Night Football all the way until Monday Night Football and be discussing whether I believe you should start or sit the notable running backs in each matchup. But before we get on into the video, I would like to ask, if you are new to the YouTube channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video, as well as I'd like to give you guys a quick word from my friends and my sponsor over at Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. With Thrive, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus only on the top tier athletes that have the biggest impacts on the game. Choose 10 out of the 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and the under based upon how likely it is to hit. Hit the most props and rack up the most amount of points to win your share of the prize pool. Thrive's $100,000 guaranteed contest is just $20 to enter, and first place takes home $20,000. Make sure that you guys sign up and use promo code Notorious when you sign up today, and you will receive a 100% instant first deposit match up to $100. Download the Thrive Fantasy app on the App Store or the Play Store, or by visiting their website www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today. And we are back, so without further ado, let's get into the video. We begin with the Thursday Night Football matchup of the Dallas Cowboys at the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, in this matchup, we have a case where some people are going to get pretty nervous because Zach Martin, one of the offensive linemen of the Dallas Cowboys, is out with COVID. That is very worrisome up against a Bucs defense that is very, very good, was able to get to the quarterback very effectively up against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, was able to very effectively do it all of last season, and I believe they're going to be able to do the exact same thing in 2021. But in week number 1, the biggest advice I can give you, this advice is applicable to week number 1 of 2021. It's also going to be applicable to week number 1 of 2099, and that is to start your studs. I talked about it in the wide receiver video from earlier on today, where I talked about my starter sets at the wide receiver position. You drafted some of these running backs early on in your draft. You drafted Ezekiel Elliott, likely with a top 5 or 6 pick in your fantasy draft. So you are going to start him week number 1, regardless of the matchup. Now, this is a matchup that I am very nervous about for Ezekiel Elliott. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished outside of the top 12 at the running back position for the week. But even if he finishes outside of the top 12, it's going to be very hard to kind of scavenge through your bench and find another running back that you would want to start over Ezekiel Elliott this week. For the Buccaneers, I'm going to be starting Ronald Jones. Now, right now, I'm about as unsure as it gets who is going to be the lead running back game in and game out for the Buccaneers. But what I do believe is that Ronald Jones will be getting the first licks in this offense. He will be the first guy up. Now, if he ends up making one minor mistake, it appears that Bruce Arians is going to throw that kangaroo hat that he wears, if that's what it's called, that weird hat. He's going to throw it. He's going to get pissed off, and he's going to take Ronald Jones off the field and throw Leonard Fournette in there. And if Leonard Fournette can't get it done, he's going to throw in Giovanni Bernard. So this is going to be a very annoying situation to deal with week in and week out. But up against the Dallas Cowboys defense, if Ronald Jones is able to hold a stranglehold of being the number 1 back on this team, then this is a complete and utter smash matchup up against the garbage Dallas Cowboys defense. So for sits, I'm going to be setting down Tony Pollard. Unless Ezekiel Elliott was to get hurt, there is no reason to be starting Tony Pollard. Unless there's reason to believe that Ronald Jones is not the main guy, then there's no need to start Leonard Fournette. Same thing goes with Giovanni Bernard. A lot of people are talking Giovanni Bernard up to have this James White-esque role in this offense like James White had with the New England Patriots. Obviously, the correlation there is Tom Brady's the quarterback of both of these teams. Maybe that does come true. He did play all of the first team snaps on third down with the team in preseason, so maybe he's very involved in the third down scenarios for the team, and that's going to be great for fantasy, but I'd rather see it week 1 over throwing him into my lineup. Next up, we start with the Sunday slate, the Seattle Seahawks at the Indianapolis Colts. For the Seahawks, you're going to be starting Chris Carson. another case of a start your studs. You drafted Chris Carson inside of the 3rd or the 4th round of your fantasy draft. Sure, the Indianapolis Colts have a relatively solid defense, but I believe this is going to be a lower scoring game, which will involve rushing the rock a lot for the Seattle Seahawks, so I like Chris Carson a lot. For the Colts, I'm going to be starting Jonathan Taylor. Another case, yet again, start your studs. You drafted Jonathan Taylor in the 1st or the 2nd round of your draft. He's going up against the Seattle Seahawks, who didn't have a great defense early on last year, and then they kind of caught fire towards the end of the season. Which defense will we see? I would say probably in the middle, so not a solid defense, but not a god-awful defense for the Seattle Seahawks, so I expect Jonathan Taylor to have a perfectly fine game. I'm going to be sitting down Rashad Penny for the Seahawks. I don't even know if he is going to be the running back number 2 on the season. There was a lot of talk out of training camp that the other running backs have the potential to surpass Rashad Penny because he just has not been the guy in his career thus far. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. He doesn't look very good, so who knows if he'll even be the running back 2 of this team. After that, we got the Colts running backs of Nyheim Hines and Marlon Mack. Now, I know a lot of people are wanting to start Nyheim Hines in this game, and if you're in a deeper league, sure, you can go ahead, but I do expect this to be a lower scoring game, and I want to see how things are going to work with all 3 of these running backs on the field, that being Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, and Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack is probably the odd man out here. I doubt he's going to be seeing the field all that much, but this game will be very telling of how that rotation is going to work in Indianapolis. Next up, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. Now, normally the case for fantasy football is even if a team is complete and utter dog shit, you're going to want to go ahead and start the number 1 running back on the team. But that is not the case at all right now with the Houston Texans, because this is going to be a threesome of running backs, a running back by committee in Houston that I am very unsure who the lead back is going to be. From a couple of months ago, I would have told you, hey, David Johnson's going to get the first licks, but then maybe Philip Lindsay will be involved on 3rd down. Maybe Mark Ingram comes in to spell David Johnson at times, but I don't think he's going to be all that involved. But based upon preseason, it seems like Mark Ingram could end up being the starter of the team. Philip Lindsay may end up getting the first touches, and David Johnson has been relegated to a 3rd down role. Even with the Jacksonville Jaguars defense being a complete and utter dumpster fire, there is no way I can put any confidence into starting David Johnson, Philip Lindsay, or Mark Ingram, but this is a very telling game because it's going to tell us what we need to do in the future with Johnson, with Lindsay, as well as with Mark Ingram. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, you're going to want to start James Robinson. Now, they did end up bringing in Duke Johnson, who right now is on the practice squad, so it does not appear that he is going to be playing in this game, so James Robinson is a smash start up against the Houston Texans defense. While I think that Carlos Hyde cuts enough of a role into this offense that it does kind of screw over James Robinson's top 12 potential on the season, in this game up against the Houston Texans, with how bad that defense is, James Robinson might be able to be the number 1 running back in fantasy football on the week. Carlos Hyde, like I said, I think he'll be able to carve out enough of a role to not be fantasy relevant, but to whittle away on James Robinson's potential to be a great fantasy football running back, so I'm not going to be starting Carlos Hyde on this week. If Urban Meyer goes out there and throws the kitchen sink at the wall, and Carlos Hyde is getting a lot of usage, which is possible because I've talked about this a bunch on my channel, I don't really like Urban Meyer as a head coach. I think the guy's a little bit crazy. I think there is a shot that Carlos Hyde gets more work than we would believe, but in this game up against the Houston Texans in week number 1, I'm going to put 100% of my confidence in James Robinson and 0 confidence in starting Carlos Hyde, even in a smash matchup up against the Houston Texans defense. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, if you guys have watched my channel for some time, you would know that I basically hate Miles Sanders this season. I believe this is going to be a glorified running back by committee in Philadelphia. Sure, Doug Peterson leaves, they bring in Nick Sirianni, and now maybe the running back by committee will be gone because Doug Peterson is gone. He took his ways out of there, and now the Eagles are going to be looking to give Miles Sanders the lead back role. He's going to be a workhorse running back. He does have the traits to potentially be a workhorse running back, but all signs out of training camp, all of the snap counts I've looked at, it seems like it's going to be a committee again. But you would be stupid to sit Miles Sanders up against the Atlanta Falcons defense, just like you would be stupid to sit Mike Davis up against the Philadelphia Eagles defense. This is going to be a barn burner. This is one of the most interesting games of week number 1 because I think this game is a true coin flip. If I was to bet on this game, I would tell you the Eagles were going to win, but I believe this is going to be a very high-scoring game, and I think both of these running backs will be very involved in the pass-catching game. If I had to pick between these two running backs to start, to me it would be a no-brainer to start Mike Davis because he's the clear lead running back there. I believe he is going to be a workhorse back in Atlanta. Will Wayne Gallman get touches? Yes. Will Cordero Patterson take some touches in this game? Probably, right? Even though he's a wide receiver, they have him listed as a running back. I don't know. I mean, in this game up against the Eagles, I have sky-high expectations for Mike Davis as well as for Miles Sanders. For the Eagles, while I think this is going to be a committee, I think Miles Sanders will get the more valuable touches in this game, thus making Boston Scott a sit. Next game here, we got the LA Chargers at the Washington Football Team. But before we assess the running backs in this matchup, I'd like to ask if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying this video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Again, like I said off the rip of the video, not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, please make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you're on Twitter, please follow me on there, at Notorious FNTSY. Back into it, the Chargers at the Washington Football Team. Now, this is a matchup that I believe is going to be very low scoring. This is a Chargers defense that is healthy. How long will they be able to stay healthy? I don't know. I'm not trying to piss you off if you're a Chargers fan. It does suck when injuries continue to happen to your defense every single year. I come on here and I tell you, at least for the last 2 years I've been making videos in 2020, 2019, that the Chargers are going to have this amazing defense, and then inevitably it all falls apart like a fucking Jenga tower or something. So I like the Chargers defense. I like the Washington Football Team defense, which means I worry about how many points are going to be scored in this game. But again, you got to start your studs. You drafted Eckler in likely the first round. You could have drafted him inside the first 6 picks of your draft, maybe even pick number 5 of the draft. So you're certainly not going to sit him even up against a tough Washington Football Team defense. For Antonio Gibson, while he did fall into the second round, he's still probably your running back 1 potentially on your team, or your running back 2. Unless you have some other crazy upside option on your team, you're going to have to start Antonio Gibson, even in a tough matchup up against the Chargers. I'm going to be sitting down Justin Jackson for the LA Chargers. I don't believe that Justin Jackson is the clear number 2 running back on this team. I think if Austin Eckler was to go down, knock on wood, that they would kind of just apply a myriad of running backs to be the number 2 guy. So I don't think Justin Jackson is going to be overwhelmingly seeing a lot more touches than any of the other running backs behind him. J.D. McKissic is a guy that I liked a decent amount. I talked about him on the waiver wire show. I talked about him a lot in the offseason, especially more recently, kind of beating the drum for him to be a late round pick in your draft. But again, up against the Chargers, I don't think I love it. Something to note of this game is to watch Antonio Gibson. Will he be involved on third down, or will J.D. McKissic have that role just like he had last season? My bet would be J.D. McKissic is on the field on third downs. That's going to be my bet. He had over 100 targets thrown his way last season. I think he's going to be very involved in this offense. But let's see, because some people are talking up Antonio Gibson to be the second coming of Christian McCaffrey, and I don't know if that's going to happen with J.D. McKissic on the team. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills, the debut game of Najee Harris, and he is going to be a start in this matchup. Now, the Buffalo Bills, they are a good defense, so I don't expect Najee Harris to just drop a deuce on the Buffalo Bills defense. I don't expect him to bend them over a table and spank them 50 Shades of Grey style, but what I do expect is Harris to get a decent amount of dump-offs thrown his way and to have a solid enough game to be worthy of a start. Again, start your studs. You want to know who's not a stud? Either of the Bills running backs. Devin Singletary, Zach Moss. I have no idea what to think about them. I liked Moss because he was going later. And then it turned out that Devin Singletary was getting drafted later than him. So, what do you think about that? I have no idea. I have no idea. I think Josh Allen's going to steal a lot of the rushing touchdowns. I think it's fine to have drafted Devin Singletary or Zach Moss, and it's perfectly acceptable to not start them this week up against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that may or may not be with TJ Watt. Benny Snell, obviously a sit because Najee Harris is the lead back in Pittsburgh. Next up, we got the San Francisco 49ers at the Detroit Lions, and we have a running back that I am ultra confident in week number 1. The 49ers running back, Raheem the Dream Mostert. The Detroit Lions defense is fucking awful. This is going to be, like I said in the wide receiver video, a murder on the gridiron. This is going to be brutal. Now, would I be surprised if somehow the Lions won? Yes, but for some reason, something tells me that Dan Campbell's going to get this team ready to run through a wall, to bite their kneecaps off, and somehow just beat the 49ers. But you know, that probably is non-existent, right? The 49ers are probably going to go into Detroit and beat the ever-living shit out of that defense, and Raheem Mostert might legitimately rush for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. This game could get out of hand early, passing the football, and then they're going to go to the rushing attack, and the Lions will stand no chance against Raheem Mostert. Now, the biggest plus of this game would be, if you have Trey Sermon on your team, is that Raheem Mostert stinks, and then Trey Sermon takes over, looks really good, and then week number 2 on, they go ahead and lean with Trey Sermon. This is a hot hand approach offense at the running back position from Kyle Shanahan. He believes that, hey, if Raheem Mostert goes out there and he looks good, then he's going to be the starter in this game, that he's going to be getting a lot of the touches, and if he starts to dwindle off, then we throw Trey Sermon in. I think this is going to be a murder matchup, like I said. I think the 49ers just absolutely eviscerate them. There is no way Raheem Mostert plays bad up against the Detroit Lions unless he gets hurt like he always does, knock on wood. So let's hope that Raheem Mostert could have a big game here. I am very confident in his upside this week against the Lions. DeAndre Swift appears to be good to go for week number 1. There was a lot of worry in draft season, in the offseason, that maybe DeAndre Swift would not get the nod in this game. Now, this is a brutal matchup up against the 49ers. Because, like I said, the 49ers are going to beat up on them. This is going to be a game that could be a complete and utter blowout, where they have to throw the ball a lot later in the game. Luckily for us, DeAndre Swift has some pass-catching ability, is the better pass-catching running back here, but I still have that worry that maybe Dan Campbell does truly believe that this is a 1-2 punch, like he's been saying, that this is the hot hand approach. It's a battle of the hot hand approach team. So what happens if Swift looks bad the first drive? Then they go in, they say, fuck it, it's Jamal Williams time. Jamal Williams plays really good, and then Jamal Williams is the starter for that game, and you get shit out of luck with DeAndre Swift. I would bet that Swift would look better in this game, though. You drafted him so early, you got to start him, so I'm going to sit down Jamal Williams in this matchup. Next up, we got the Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. Another matchup here where I feel like it is going to be a barn burner, a very high-scoring matchup in Cincinnati. Here, you're going to be starting Dalvin Cook. You drafted him number 2 overall. Some people are a little bit crazy, and they took him number 1 overall. Do I agree with that? No. Christian McCaffrey was the unanimous running back 1. It seemed as though it was clear if you were the number 1 overall pick, you're going to take him. But some people, they're a little bit crazy. They went with Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook is going to go absolutely apeshit up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. They stand no chance up against Dalvin Cook. The Vikings defense isn't very good either. Sure, maybe slightly better than last season, but not very good. I think Joe Mixon could have a great game. Again, another case of start your studs, even if I'm not the biggest believer of Joe Mixon this season. For the sits, we're going to be sitting down Samaje Perine of the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, he's the backup. Alexander Mattison for the Vikings, because unless Dalvin Cook is hurt, it's kind of like Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, that unless Ezekiel Elliott is hurt, then Tony Pollard is irrelevant. Unless Dalvin Cook is hurt, then Alexander Mattison is basically irrelevant in this matchup. Next up, we have the New York Football Jets at the Carolina Panthers, the Mono Man Sam revenge game. The Jets against the Panthers. Mono Man Sam going to get his revenge on the Jets? I think so. I think this could be a very good game for the Panthers. Christian McCaffrey, obviously, he was the number 1 pick in the draft. You're going to start him against the Jets. He might score 50 fucking fantasy points. The Jets defense isn't all that great. The Panthers offense isn't all that great either, but Christian McCaffrey's amazing, so you're going to start him. For the Jets, some people will tell you to start Tevin Coleman. I'm not too sure if Tevin Coleman is really going to be the lead back. Now, if I had to close my eyes, gun to the head, someone's going to fucking murder me if I don't spit out an answer here and tell you who the running back one's going to be on this team. I'm going to tell you Tevin Coleman. I still believe eventually Michael Carter will be the guy. I'm holding on to that take. I do really believe he will be at some point in this season, but week number 1, I'm sitting all of the Jets running backs, Tevin Coleman, Ty Johnson, as well as Michael Carter. For the Panthers, I'm going to be sitting down Chuba Hubbard, because it's a case of, unless, it's kind of just like I talked about with Madison, with Tony Pollard, unless McCaffrey was to go down, Chuba Hubbard is especially irrelevant, because McCaffrey might be on the field 100% of the time. Obviously, that's impossible, but you get what I mean. Next up, we move to Tennessee for the Tennessee Titans going up against the Arizona Cardinals in Tennessee. Derrick Henry is a start for me. Again, start your studs. You drafted him early on. This guy may rush for 7,000 yards up against the Cardinals defense. Chase Edmonds, James Conner, the tandem running backs in Arizona. I talked about this ad nauseum all offseason. I believe that there's a pretty good chance that James Conner is the lead back here just a couple weeks in the season. It may happen in week number 1. Chase Edmonds is a fine running back. You drafted him, though, in the 7th round. in the 8th round. So you probably have other options to start at running back or at your flex. So I'm definitely not looking to lean with Chase Edmonds this week because I think James Conner could take over and be the lead back there in Arizona. But that doesn't mean I'm starting James Conner either. This is kind of a feel it out matchup up against the Titans. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns at the Kansas City Chiefs here. You're basically starting every starting running back for the Browns. 9-inch Nicholas Chubb and Kareem Hunt up against the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense is solid, but this is a run-heavy offense in Cleveland. They are going to look to jam the football down the throat of the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Nick Chubb should be pretty solid this week, potentially a top 5 finish. Now, not saying he will finish in the top 5, but he does have the potential this week. Kareem Hunt, more of a safer running back too. I'm not someone who is super infatuated with drafting Kareem Hunt in the offseason. I kind of talked about it, how I feel as though he's just a safe pick, right? There's really little upside with Kareem Hunt because we saw even last year when Nick Chubb got hurt, Kareem Hunt was basically putting up identical numbers from when Nick Chubb was in the game versus without. So I think they really complement each other for Kareem Hunt's style. At least I think that if Hunt was to go down, again, knock on wood, we're not rooting for injuries here, that Nick Chubb could be fucking amazing because now he's getting a lot of that receiving work. But if Chubb was to go down, I don't think the exact same thing is true with Kareem Hunt. I think Hunt is going to be fine in this matchup up against the Chiefs. I just don't love the upside of him game in and game out for the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, start your studs. You drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire early on in the draft. You're going to play Clyde Edwards-Helaire here up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Darrell Williams, the backup running back of the Chiefs, is going to be a sit. There's also some talk about Jerick McKinnon potentially getting some work on the Chiefs. And if he starts taking some of this work, just like with Le'Veon Bell last year, how it kind of cucked over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, then you are going to be mad you drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he should be fine here up against the Browns. And next up, we got my favorite game of the week. As a Miami Dolphins fan, you can see the logo right here. Go Dolphins up against the Patriots. Dolphins by at least 14 in this matchup. In reality, that's not what's going to happen. I think the spread right now is 3.5, and the Patriots are favored. A little bit crazy in my opinion for Mac Jones' debut, but it could go either way. As a Dolphins fan, I respect the Patriots. I don't like them, obviously, but I respect them. I think this is going to be a close game. I don't like any of the receivers in this matchup. If you guys watch my wide receiver video, I talked about how I think this is going to be a run-heavy game, a very close game. I like Gaskin for the Dolphins. Everyone was talking about, Nick, Salvon Ahmed, Malcolm Brown. Oh, I can't even do the voice correctly, but oh no, oh man, Malcolm Brown and Salvon Ahmed, they're gonna screw over Myles Gaskin, Nick. And then we saw what happened. Week 1, sure, Gaskin wasn't that great, but week 2, Gaskin took a stranglehold over this offense in the preseason. He's the clear #1 back. Cameron Wolfe, I believe it was, went on TV yesterday on NFL Network and said Myles Gaskin is the guy in Miami. No shit. No shit. He always has been. Always has been. Myles Gaskin against the Patriots, I don't love it. I don't love it. But I am going to be starting him here because I think he will get enough receiving work to finish as a top 24 running back on the week. Damian Harris, this is the best start for the Patriots, is Damian Harris, because of the fact that while the Dolphins have one of the better defenses in the NFL, the rushing defense is soft as baby shit. Melvin Gordon ran a train on the Miami Dolphins last year. Damian Harris is going to put in that work in the trenches up against the Miami Dolphins and have quite the solid game. For sitting, I'm sitting down Malcolm Brown. I'm also sitting down Salvon Ahmed because, again, I believe that Myles Gaskin is absolutely that guy, pal, in Miami. For the Patriots, some people talking about James White. I want to see it before I truly believe in a guy drafted in the 13th round to be a great running back. I like James White. I like the potential, but I want to see it happen before I clamor for him to be a starting running back week in and week out. Next up, we got the Denver Broncos at the New York Football Giants. I hate this game. This is going to be a snooze fest. I said it in the wide receiver video. If you have children, if you have small children, and you want to put them to bed, don't bother playing a lullaby. Don't bother putting on some white noise in your room. I think that helps people sleep. Don't bother playing the thunderstorm noises, the nice rain noises to soothe your child. Don't put that little thing that goes over the crib that makes that noise above. I don't remember what it's called. It's like a chandelier, but that's not what it's called. I don't have kids. I haven't been a kid that was that old. I don't remember what it was like when I was that old, but you get what I'm talking about. That thing, this is very off topic, but you could put this game on because this game is a snooze fest. You could go to sleep This is the kind of game where if you've ever seen like those commercials where it's like, oh, the dad falls asleep watching the game, right when this game turns on the television, that dad is tired, he's knocking the fuck out. This game is going to be bad. Saquon Barkley on a potential limited workload, on a potential snap count. But unless there's talk of this being like 50-50 with Devontae Booker, you have to start him in this game up against a tough Broncos defense. I do not expect too much out of Barkley in this matchup for sitting down Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. I'm a believer that Javonte Williams is a talented running back, but what I do believe also is that this is the final year of Melvin Gordon's contract. This is the Vic Fangio system in Denver in which he loves that running back by committee. He loves the dual-headed running back approach, and I believe both Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams are going to be parasitic running backs to each other. Meaning, unless there's an injury to either of them, they're both going to get enough work to screw each other out of being potentially good in fantasy football. Devontae Booker is going to be a sit. Some people may get a little bit spicy and try to start Devontae Booker because Barkley is on a snap count. Again, how sure are we what this snap count is going to be unless we know more by Sunday? Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers at the Saints in Jacksonville. I hope everyone in New Orleans, if you watch my videos and you're from there, I hope that you are okay. Obviously, what happened there, that is very, very sad. I hope you are okay, and I hope that the game is good, and I hope you're able to watch this game. So we got Aaron Jones and the Green Bay Packers up against Alvin Kamara and the Saints, both first-round picks, both running backs I projected to be top 5 on the season, so they're going to be starts. A.J. Dillon, a lot of people talking A.J. Dillon up, giving him the nice sucky, the gawk 9000 from the ground. I don't believe in A.J. Dillon. I think that he's just the backup, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's more involved, and then you can start him the next bunch of weeks. But for right now, I'm not going to buy into that narrative. And Latavius Murray almost got cut by the Saints, so I don't think you could really believe in him this week. Next up, we got the Sunday night football matchup between the Chicago Bears at the LA Rams. And we are going to be starting here David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears. We're going to be starting Darrell Henderson. I don't expect either of these running backs to blow me out of the water in week number 1. I expect this to be a closer game. I think the Rams will win. But both of these defenses are good against the run. So David Montgomery, Darrell Henderson, you're going to start them, but don't expect a top 12 week, in my opinion, from either of them. Damian Williams, getting some smoke online, talking him up. I don't know. I'd rather see it before I believed it. And then Sony Michel for the Rams. There's a lot of talk about him needing to learn the playbook a little bit more. He's going to be playing in week 1 likely, but I mean, I still believe Darrell Henderson is the lead running back in LA. And final game here, we got Monday Night Football between the Ravens at the Raiders. We need to go ahead. I might start one of those pension things that you can sign online to make sure that we have a Monday night doubleheader next season. Where did that go? I love the Monday night doubleheader, even though I have to go to bed at like 2 in the morning after watching the games because I have to do the recap after. All that. I still love it. Why is that not happening this week? I don't know. Sucks to suck. It really does suck, to be honest with you. But Ravens at Raiders, Gus Bus Edwards might be a top 10 running back this week. I kind of really had an epiphany a couple of hours ago thinking about this. The Raiders' defense isn't amazing. The Ravens' offense is pretty good. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to drip the clock down. So Gus Edwards is going to be very good. Tyson Williams, interesting to see how involved he is. Justice Hill out. Maybe they bring in Le'Veon Bell. If that is the case, then, I might be a little bit nervous about Gus Edwards, but I'm still starting him this week, obviously, up against the Raiders. For the Raiders, I'm sitting Jacobs. I'm sitting Drake. I didn't like Josh Jacobs at all in this offseason. I never once talked him up, even in the slightest, so I'm not starting him here up against a tough Ravens defense. Kenyon Drake, I'm not starting him either. I want to see what this looks like here. How much work is Drake getting on the ground? How much work is Drake getting from the receiving game? How much work is Jacobs getting on the ground? How much work is Kenyon Drake sucking away from him? I don't know. I want to see it in week number 1. So I am sitting both of the running backs in this matchup for the Las Vegas Raiders. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure that you hit that like button as well to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. Again, happy Titty Tuesday. Tomorrow, what is Wednesday? It is Wednesday, my dudes. It's the fucking hump day, I guess. I don't know. We got to think of names for every single day. So let me know down below in the comment section what I should call every single day. Let me know. I love you guys. I think Titty Tuesday is a great name for Tuesday. I love you guys all. Make sure that you stay safe, as always. Good boy.